Hi, this video is about installing a Synereo Docker node on a Windows home computer. If Synereo is to become a social contracting system of the people, by the people, for the people, then we, the people, need to run Synereo nodes. And that's what we're doing today, is running a node. And if you don't have a link to the instructions handy, you can go to synereo.com. You can click on the developers link at the top. And I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it better. And we'll go to developers. And we go to the bottom and we see Synereo on GitHub, which is becoming a lot friendlier place to be. We click on GitHub. And we see the repositories under Synereo, and one's called Docker node. And that's what we're using today. And we want to go to the wiki, and the wiki tells us that they're where to get the simple steps for the Docker image creation and the basic Docker commands to start, stop, restart, execute a terminal window, and look at the Docker logs, which you probably won't need unless you're trying to diagnose a problem or start and stop the image. Running a pre-built image, instructions. Okay, it starts off with the warning. This is an experimental pre-release software. Should be used for testing purposes only. Now, this release was 3 days ago, and if everything works well in this installation, it'll be formally released. But it's still in its early stages, and there's a lot of restructuring being done in the bottom layer that affects the interface, and you can come up with unexpected problems, and you may lose your users on your node, or other bad things could happen. So the first prerequisite is to have a Gmail account. And this is because when somebody signs up at a node, it sends an email that has a token, a validation token, which they have to use to validate their account. And if the email doesn't work, then the users aren't going to be able to sign in. So we have to have a Google account, and we have to, and what I suggest for that purpose is that on Google, you look at your account and you add an account specifically for this purpose. You know, I've already done that. I'm on that account, Jim's Robot White Scarver, Jim Scarver smtp@gmail.com. It's the Simple Mail Transport Protocol. But it takes 3 steps to do one step. You have to hit add account again. And then finally, if the account doesn't already exist, you have to hit create account. This is adding an account to this browser or to Google, your Google login. And then under create account, you can call it any name you want, but it's the name that people will see when they get invitation, when they get the confirmation code. This is who it will be from, so you should make this out, as something fairly generic. They want a phone number and what the story is with that. And then you just put in your regular Gmail address as the current email, if you have one. And the only gotcha here is if you have, one thing, if you have a Gmail account, the account that you use must have the when you set the security access settings for that, at the very bottom is an option. That's not the bottom. Very bottom. Allow access to less secure apps. And that you have to turn that on. It might work with it off, but essentially the scenario node is going to log in as you from, programmatically, and it can't do two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication must be turned off, and it's a good idea to check this allow less secure apps so that the mail is less likely to be rejected. There's various conditions when it won't work if you don't have this set. Basic knowledge of Docker. You don't need to know much about Docker in order to start. If you click here, you'll get more than you need to know about Docker. Machine capable of running Docker with at least 4 gigabytes of RAM and 8 gigabytes recommended. This machine has 4 gigabytes. Then has instructions for Linux users, Mac users. Now for Windows users who have Windows Pro or Enterprise or Educational Pro versions, they can get Docker for Windows available here. But this is a Windows Home Edition box, and Docker Toolbox is the easiest thing. It includes a kinematic UI interface to manage images and containers. We're not using that today because that is it doesn't work on my machine, and I haven't determined why. But in any case, the instructions use the Docker command line, and you don't need kinematics to for that. Okay, so then you click on the Windows download box for the Docker Toolbox, and it downloads, and you install, and you take all the defaults. I've already installed it. It can take some time, and then it opens a folder that has the the kinematics and the Docker command line in it, and you want to run the Docker command line. You can find it under programs, or just start typing Docker, and the Docker start terminal is what we want. Now, the first time you run this, it takes a long time, and it goes through a lot of setup processes before it gets to this point. I've already gone through that, as it takes it took about 10 minutes on this machine to do all the setup that was necessary in building. So we return to our instructions. Maybe problems with Windows 7. We have to clarify that process. Feel free to give it a try. Okay, and it says make sure Docker is running, and we just opened it and it's running. You can type a command, Docker PS, and you see we have nothing running. Let me expand this. Okay, and then we copy and paste the command here that points to the image for the node we want. And we don't copy the pound sign. That's the prompt that we should see. And then so we copy that, and then we paste it into this terminal here. Control D will work. And this will go through a process of configuring the node, setting it up, building the image. And we're going to, a Docker container is an isolated, secure place where you can run software that's not going to screw up your machine. Of course, it can always use too many resources or whatever and bog your machine down, the other problems, but essentially it's isolated, so it doesn't, it's reasonably safe to run the Docker image that you're don't expect is going to be an issue. Synereo node is made up of lots of bits of software that compromise the node. It's a scale-up process and a RabbitMQ communication system, and the database, Mongo database. And it's picking up all the pieces it needs. And we're finished here.
we switch back to the instructions, and we go down to the next command, the Docker run command, and we select the whole command here. Let's see, it's a very long command, and we copy, and we might want to copy this, put this in a notepad or something to edit it. Editing in the command line is a little different. The mouse doesn't work for setting the cursor. Oops. So we're going to fill in the email auth username and put in the email address that we created for this purpose. Take out the brackets, put in the email. For the email auth password, we put in the password that I temporarily assigned to this account for the purposes of this video. And then finally, we're going to change the email from address, which should be the complete email address that you assign to this account, to ensure that Google is okay with using that email address as the from address that people will see when they receive the email. And that about does it. We hit enter to run the Docker run command. And we're running, we hope. So we go back to the instructions and see how to access our node, I believe we should be doing. Let's just, oops. We made a mistake here. The container already exists. This part of the video needs to be cut out. So we remove it, and now we're running it again. And now we're running. And we can do a Docker PS to see what it's running. We don't need to do that. But now we're going to go back to our instructions, and we're going to look to see the address that we can use to access it. We can see that, for the Windows 10, we have the address 192.168.99.100 for localhost. We'll use the 192 address, and we have to be sure to use HTTPS in order to access the synereo node on our local machine that we just launched. And we get a certificate blank, which is expected because we have a self-signed certificate which we trust, and we're going to accept it. Choosing advanced and make an exception or proceed to the site. And here we go. We have the synereo login. We can check the API details to make sure they match the URL we're at, which they do. If we're accessing from some other port, they may not access. Now we could sign on as admin here, or we could create an account, and if we don't see it at the bottom, there's a choice for don't have an account. We can zoom down on small screens, or there we go. Don't have an account at the bottom. Control minus usually zooms down, and we check the API details. They're okay. Now this version has calls the username undefined, but that's a new issue with this release. That's what happens here. So we choose a username, and then provide an email address where the email is going to be sent to with our verification token, and we select the password. In this version, it says it wants 6 characters, but I need to put 7. I'm not sure why. The last release was a lot more tolerant of 1-character passwords. Okay, we get the verify token screen. We want to check our email. So we're see, switching to my regular account from the SMTP account. What I do? Oops, I'm getting Jim Scarver SMTP email, wrong email. What I want is my regular Google account, not the one I just created. There we go. Okay, and I see Jim Scarver SMTP sent me an email, confirms malicious agent setup. No. Malicious is the name for the alpha, legacy name of the alpha code, and I copy my token from the email, and I go back to the synereo screen, paste it into the verified token screen. And we have account validation success. So we can now log in. And we're in, and we're looking at our feed, and there's nothing on it. So, the first thing we're going to do is we click on user archive. We're going to set an icon, an avatar for ourselves. Just pick one at random here. And now we're going to go to the About, and the About tells about the user, and the important thing here is the agent user ID, which we want to copy and share with others, because in this release of the alpha, that's the only reliable way to connect with others, is to share your user ID, your UID. And here we're going to send a post to admin or all user, and we're going to send the user ID in a post to and we'll attach a some picture to the post. So we send the user ID to admin so that admin can share it with other people, and we can get connected to others on here. Now in this release, the posts don't show up automatically. Now if you hit the empty search bar, the post will show up. Now let's sign out, and now we'll sign in on as admin. Admin at localhost is the node admin account, and the password is A, and we log in. And there is our post. We see the agent ID there. And if we look at the menu, people, we see that the only other user on the system besides the node admin is Jim. Now, if we weren't already connected to Jim, we would check the box at the bottom here. The introductions are not working properly unless the users are online in this release, so we choose invite connections at the bottom, and we can paste in a person's UID here and hit the send to make a connection to that person. In this case, admin's already connected to Jim, so we won't. We don't need to do that. At this point, we have a choice of exposing our node publicly. For more information, we can look in the Docker testing channel scenario. We can add more users and run tests locally on our machine.